Scheduling meetings in Microsoft Teams typically takes place from Microsoft Teams, but for those of you using Outlook on the desktop or on the web, you'll also find Teams plugins there where you could create new Teams meetings straight from Outlook. Also, if you just create a new event in Outlook, you'll find the Teams plugin there as well. So we are going to start in Teams. I just wanted to show you the Outlook side here first, and just take a visual snapshot of what you see here on Megan's calendar for this week. If I go back to Teams, that's the same calendar, and I mentioned it briefly earlier in the course, but the calendar node that you see in Microsoft Teams is the same as your Outlook calendar. Now notice we do lose that color coding that Megan set up on Outlook, but it is the exact same events. And these aren't duplicates. If I were to make a change to any of these inside of Teams, they would also reflect in Outlook. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to click inside of my calendar somewhere to make a new event. Let's say at 2 p.m. on Wednesday. And we'll say this is a touch base. And because I started from my calendar, it doesn't pre-populate attendees or a channel. You may remember that from our previous lessons that that'll happen if you start from somewhere else. So I have a blank touch base meeting ready to go here. I choose the date and time, whether it's all day, maybe I make it repeat. So I could say maybe every 2 weeks, and then I hit save. And then maybe I put some details in there to be shown in the invite and calendar item. And when I'm finished, I can click save. Now if you don't invite anybody, it's just for you, for your convenience. If you do invite somebody, of course it'll send that Outlook invite as usual. So let's go ahead and invite Adele, and we'll click send. There we are. Now we'll schedule one more, just a little bit quicker this time. So we'll say check-in, we'll put Nestor on there. And notice there's also a scheduling assistant. So those of you really comfortable with Outlook may not know that Teams also has that scheduling assistant feature where I could see when is Nestor available and when is Megan available. Of course, this still requires that that person has shared enough calendar detail with you for you to see that, and each person controls that for themselves. So if you don't see anything like Nestor here, that just means that he hasn't shared his calendar availability with anyone, or maybe just specifically a group that you're in. All right, so let's go ahead and send this invite. And in addition to just clicking on a calendar, sometimes you don't want to have to use these arrows to go forward and backwards a week at a time. So if you want to, you can actually just go up to the upper right-hand corner and click on New Meeting, and then you can just use the calendar here to find a specific day. That might be a little faster than going 1 week at a time. So we'll go far in advance. We'll say this is a holiday break prep, and we can do whatever else we want there and click Save. All right, so it doesn't matter where you start from, it's the same exact process there. Now there are 3 types of meetings here, where you can create a new meeting like we just did, which sends the Teams link and everything for someone to join you online. You can also do a webinar or a live event. And webinars would be great for some sort of interactivity with your attendees, where they can, chat with you, unmute, share their camera, or you can disable all of that too, but it does give them the option. Whereas live event is a bit more strict, where they'd mostly be submitting Q&A and listening, more of a read-only experience. So they're both really great, and they both have their place. So feel free to use the discussion in this lesson if you want to learn more about either of those. All right, so let's pretend that we need to make changes to an invite we've already sent. So in that case, let's open up this recurring touch base, and I'm going to click edit, and because it's recurring, I get the choice to edit this one single occurrence on the Wednesday, or edit the entire series. So very similar to Outlook in that way. Okay, and if it's just a one-time event, you just click edit, and it opens up the details. Now you'll notice there's a few different things here that we didn't have when we first scheduled the meeting, including the dial-in information if you have that, or just the join link if you just have that piece perhaps. And we've also got some additional tabs across the top where we still see scheduling assistant, but now we've got files, the chat has already been established so we can chat before the meeting even begins in this specific meeting. I've got meeting notes, whiteboard, attendance, and breakout rooms. So if that's not enough for your meeting, maybe you need to add additional apps. You can click the plus sign in the meeting details, add a form, add a poll, or whatever third-party tools you might be using for meeting engagements, or scroll down a little bit and you'll see some familiar options like embedding a file, a website, Power BI report, so on and so forth. Let's look at the Teams invite option, and that would be going to any specific channel, let's say monthly reports for sales and marketing, and I'm just going to use the Meet dropdown in the upper right-hand corner and choose Schedule a Meeting. Now, because this is monthly reports, maybe I'm going to do report check-in, And notice my channel is already here, so everybody who's a member of sales and marketing is going to get an invite. And then let's go ahead and make this a weekly meeting. And send. All right, so when you schedule from a channel, that becomes a channel meeting. So notice right here at the bottom, now I've got Megan scheduled a meeting, occurs every Thursday at 3. And if we're chatting inside that meeting, that chat actually shows up as replies to that initial post. So we're able to interact before, during, and after the Teams meeting because of this feature. Now we can also add a tab to the top of each channel, especially those where you're scheduling meetings, for the channel calendar. So I just search for calendar, I'll choose channel calendar, add that, and then that meeting that I just scheduled for every Thursday is going to show up here. So my teammates can see everything that we as a group specifically caring about monthly reports or maybe involved with monthly reports, we can see any meetings that were scheduled for this specific channel here. Now it still shows up on my Outlook. In fact, if I go back to Outlook and show you real quick, I'll see that report check-in right here. Right? And since it was weekly, I can look ahead. It's in the next week as well. All right? And lastly, we're going to go check a chat. And from a chat, it's kind of a similar concept, except I'm going to go down to the bottom instead of the upper right. And I'm going to choose this calendar icon on a new message. And in this particular chat, I'm chatting with Diego, Isaiah, Joni, and 3 more people. If I click that schedule button on a new message, it takes me to another invite. And notice it does pre-populate everybody I was chatting with as attendees. So I'd say a catch-up perhaps, look at my scheduling assistant, find a time that works for everybody, so maybe tomorrow at 9, and I send it. Right now in this case in a chat, it doesn't post a message about it, but everybody who's a member of that chat just got an Outlook invite, and of course it's going to show up on their calendar. So here's my catch-up on my calendar, and of course that'll show as tentative on everybody who is invited until they accept or decline that. So that's all on scheduling meetings. Next, we're going to learn about attending meetings.